growing up on the outskirts of Liverpool, and everyone's nickname was their surname or their name with a Y on the end. So I was always Swifty. Well, I'd always been good at drawing. I think I'd always been very passionate about drawing. Push come to shove, age 16 left school, got my O-levels, didn't really know what to do with myself. And then my sister thrust a leaflet into my hand and said, why don't you just go to Warrington Art College, see what it's like. So I went down there, had an interview, and the guy loved me work, and he said, yeah, you're in. And so I just strolled along to art college, and after a couple of weeks I really got into it. Throughout the course of those 2 years I realised, and so did the tutor realise, that I was quite good at graphic design, you know. So I think it's very important to have a workspace where you've got all your bits around you, you know, for inspiration. You know, I never, even though it's a very, very tiny space, I never get cabin fever in here, never. I suppose because you know, it's at the end of my garden, I can always go inside, make a cup of tea, or you know, often go back inside to have dinner with the kids, and then they'll all go to bed, and I'll come back in here and do some more work. You started off in one of them like that, so it's kind of flat. Obviously, it didn't have as nice a wheels and trucks as this, but basically, this is my kind of Swifty remake of the Flyer, which was made in the UK. It was I can't remember where it was made, Leicester or somewhere, and it was obviously someone in the UK going, wow, this is a craze, we can make money on this, we'll do our old English version, you know. I suppose the big thing is that it was an introduction to something that wasn't football. You know, it wasn't about a team sport, and that's what I still say about skateboarding. It's just a great sport for yourself in terms of building your own self-confidence, believing in what you can and can't do, knowing your own boundaries, and the fact that it is a non-competitive sport, you know. I mean, my thing is still more the kind of Dogtown era, if you like. That segment of time in the sort of mid to late 70s is, to me, because you grow up with what you know, don't you? So obviously Wes Humpston, when I've got a big foot on the wall there, you know, that's there, and a couple of other Dogtown decks, they're there for me as a constant reminder as to the pioneers of skate art. That's a reissue, not one of the originals. I think if you want an original of that, it'll set you back a few thousand quid or something like that, you know. Destructo, trucks and complete that I did for them. Swift Flex, just a bit of fun. This is an old setup that I found this actually in the street and just did my own thing on. Again, a couple more Dogtown skates. Swift Flex, this is a really nice ride actually. You can't see it, but it's got really nice concave wheel wells. This was done by a company called Western Edition in the States, and they did that one as well, and that one. And then around it, all around, is just other stuff, like my old first calling card, early 90s. You do one club flyer for somebody, they like it, they come back for more. Someone else says, where'd you get that club flyer? Oh, I got this guy Swifty to do it. And it just kind of went like that. So I got hooked up with a guy on Brick Lane, Kevin the Printer, who could do a 2-colour print. My flyers started to stand out from the crowd because they were colour, you know, and they were on nice card, and you know, for years they were a great source of creativity and income, you know. Yeah. Having worked at the Face and Arena, but always been under Neville, I'd always wanted a magazine that I could call my own, as it were, that I could put my stamp onto, and you know, no one was going to get in the way. And Straight No Chaser basically did provide that, because Paul Bradshaw just gave me complete creative freedom. You know, I mean, by the mid-90s, it had become, you know, in that scene, become a very well established and respected magazine, not only for the editorial content but for the design as well. You know, a lot of things I've done over the years I've done for nothing, but they've given me the greatest amount of enjoyment and given me the greatest amount of recognition as well. You know, so again, what can I say? You know, I spent nearly 20 years designing it, and when it finished, yeah, I do miss it in a funny kind of way. You can't keep everything going forever, can you? You know. The beauty of working with someone like Chris and at Addict is because he understands. He's a graphic designer himself, so he knows how it works. So you don't have that normal client designer relationship because I don't have to. There's never a problem with working with Chris because I always know what he's thinking, and he usually always knows what I'm thinking. So you never have those usual battles that you have with clients. You know, that whether it be them not understanding where you're coming from or your ideas, or just stupid stuff like colours, or, you know, the graphic design industry from a designer's point of view can be incredibly frustrating, and it is a breath of fresh air to then finally work for people who know where you're at, understand you, and what can I say? You know, it's easy, it's a joy. Swifty spray cans, which I developed and then Chris saw, and this basically was the inspiration for the next range of Addict tees. It was great doing the camo patterns, actually. That was a real challenge for me. The thing about a tile, you know, creating a tile in one aspect is quite technical. And then, of course, being given a kind of free rein to pretty much do what I wanted. Definitely it was almost a bit like a turning point for me, really. It's nice always to be able to get away from the printed graphics, you know, and into something real. And when you see people walking down the street with, you know, your own pattern on a garment, it's a rush, that is, you know. What can you say? You know, you're having fun and you're getting paid for it. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, does it? And the fact that he keeps coming back to me and Mitch and a few key people just builds good continuity with the brand, you know, and it's good to see a brand staying true, you know. Quite possibly say that Addict's one of the best clients I've ever had, if not the best. Yeah, totally. I've never really been one of these designers that just did one thing, or artists, you know, you get a lot of that, don't you? They just do one thing, they do it very well, and it changes slightly over the years, but essentially it's the same thing. My thing has always been about trying to have as much stuff going on, many different angles as possible, as many different kind of looks and aesthetics as you can have going on, that all come into the mix, and hopefully, because you are the sole creator of all those things, hopefully they do have some kind of synergy, you know, and they do. Hopefully people will look at my work and go, oh, that's a Swifty. I do think it's quite funny now that I'm almost continuing my career now, producing stuff that I did produce nearly 20 years ago, but you're just regurgitating it all the time. You're just redoing stuff in different ways for different people. And that's quite nice as well, actually. I think it started out because I didn't just want to put sleeve design by Ian Swift on the back of the sleeve. I just thought that was a bit whack. I put on the back something like slamming funky typographics by Swifty, and Ian Wright did the illustration, and I put bombastic drawings by Wrighty, and just thought let's just make it a little bit more fun, you know. And then each sleeve after that I changed it slightly, and people started picking up on it. You know, what's all this slamming typographics? You know, it was a bit like when with Uncle, and we just made up a thing called the Fat Groove, PHAT, and I made this little graphic that said Fat Groove on the back. It came off like an Old Man from Uncle sleeve that I had. And that was called Dyna Groove, and the grooves were meant to be fatter or something and give you a richer sound, you know, all that kind of crap. And we put Fat Groove, and James had people coming up to going, "What's all this Fat Groove stuff? How do you get that? How's it done? You know, can I have some?" And we're just saying, "Well, it's just a joke, and it's just nonsense." I mean, when I started out, you know, that was why you got paid such good money for designing sleeves for majors. You made a handsome living out of it because, you know, you designed the 12, then you designed the 7, then you did the CD, Then he did, and in some cases he did. Then did the cassette single. You know, so you're making money each time you reformatted your artwork. All that went, and suddenly you're just designing CDs, which, you know, that is not as good as that. And you're down to that, and now you're down to that on a computer screen at the end of the day. The digital domain is not really my thing, really. I'm still much more of a printed matter man. You know, I don't really get a kick out of designing a website for someone. It doesn't really do it for me. I don't know why. I like to have something in my hand, you know. I like a t-shirt or a skateboard or you know, a printed magazine, or, you know, it's got to be tangible for me. But I am old school, you know, so, you know, what do you expect? It all starts out as a, for me a lot of the time, starts out as a hand-drawn sketch, you know, and then ends up in the computer. To me, that's where it's at. You know, that's the craft element of it. This is the best studio I've ever had, really. When I've had big studios, but this is definitely the best studio I've ever had. I'm never going to work anywhere else now. Even if I move house, I'll have to build a new shed in the...
Probably transport this one.
Yeah, sort of. It'd probably fall apart.